Hello, happy Friday, and welcome into the webinar. This is F3 Family, Friends, and Finance. I am Peter Richon of Richon Planning. This is our monthly financial education webinar, usually held the third Friday of every month, F3, but scheduling conflicts this month, next week, and so this month we're holding it on the second Friday of the month. Don't worry though, we record and replay all of these on demand. So if for whatever reason you just wanted to watch this on the third Friday of the month, of course that will be available for you. We are here as a resource to help inform and educate you on your financial investment and planning matters to make sure that you are making well thought through and informed decisions. Smart people make better decisions, and that comes from being informed. So today's webinar specifically is on 401k opportunities. In fact, missed opportunities that are potentially costing retirees years of retirement confidence. The 401k, one of our most powerful and most utilized financial instruments to get us to retirement. But there are some things that people miss, some opportunities that can cost us. So let's get right into the webinar. Once again, I am Peter Richon, founder of Richon Planning. If you're here, you probably know that, but maybe you didn't know we've been voted best of the best in wealth management across Wake County by readers of the News and Observer the last 2 years within the rankings, and then hopefully going for a third year here for 2026. So we do encourage you, along with the information and education that you get here, get a real feel for us if you have not already done so, and get to know myself, get to know the team, and the support and the help and assistance that we provide proactive planners and savers in achieving your goals. But I do want to get right to the webinar again, and give me just a moment to pull up the right screens here. So once again, today we're going to be talking about 401ks, and specifically missed 401k opportunities that are costing years of retirement confidence. Our motto at Richon Planning is that someday starts today. And so to have more confidence through those years, you really need to understand the decision that you're making today and make sure that you are making wise and well thought through decisions for those years to come. Also, the motto is a little two-sided. Don't wait until the end of life to wish that you had done all of the things. Start doing some of those important things today, taking those trips, spending more time with family, whatever is on your list of the wild and crazy things that you want to accomplish in your life. Some of that should start today. But the only way we can do that with confidence is that if we are also planning for our future with confidence. And so that's the two sides of someday starting today. Let's make sure that we're planning for tomorrow, but living some of the things that we might put off till tomorrow today and doing those things. And the only way that we can do that, again, is through planning. That's why we put together the optimized retirement plan for our clients at Richon Planning. And just a bit of disclaimer language here. Don't take anything that I talk about on today's webinar, nor in any generic form of media that you hear on the radio, that you see on the TV, that you read in a magazine article. Do not take it as specific actionable advice for you. It is generic in nature, and you should not take any action on it until you consult with your respective professional. If you don't have a respective professional talking about some of the topics that we are going to be talking about today, then we always welcome your call and to have these conversations with you. But from a financial, legal, and tax standpoint, just like you wouldn't take generic medical information, you don't start taking prescription pills just because you see a commercial about them on TV. You need to consult with your professional to make sure that it is appropriate for you. So there's a little bit of other disclaimer language there. I'm not employed by the Social Security Administration nor any other government office. It's actually why I'm able to give some proactive guidance on Social Security. The folks down at the office, while they might be nice enough and take your order when you show up for your claim of Social Security, they're not there to tell you if that's the best day to make that claim because they don't know the rest of your financial situation. So along with not acting on generic information, make sure that whoever you're talking to knows you you personally and your situation. If you're calling up a call center and identifying yourself as an account number, you might be missing opportunities. In fact, you might be missing some of the opportunities that we are talking about today because the person who is there taking your order does not know the full situation and implications of your specific circumstance. So the optimized retirement plan consists of 5 what we call the critical pillars. And I've talked about this often, that most people that we encounter are working and earning an income and have access to the market through a variety of tools, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. A big one of them is 401ks. That's one of our most common and most utilized tools to access the market. And the 401k is a very beneficial tool for numerous reasons. However, most of the people that we talk to have never yet or are just beginning to make the process of reversing the money. Maybe they're already there, but might not have a full handle of the implications of everything that happens when the direction of money reverses. When you have an income, you need investments. You need access to the market. When you no longer have an income and you have an investment portfolio, you need an income plan. And along with income planning, there's kind of a domino effect. All of the pieces fit together for the rest of the 5 critical pillars of taxes, healthcare and benefits, and legacy planning. And the direction of your money matters as much, if not more, than the direction of the market. I've talked about this before and more on that later, but let's get into how that applies to your 401k and the missed opportunities that are costing years of retirement confidence. So what are some of those big missed opportunities? Well, definitely missing the match. Never increasing contributions, ignoring fees inside of the 401k, or becoming too concentrated in one investment option, whether it be an ultra risky one or a very conservative one. Either way, too much concentration in one fund can be detrimental. Taking unnecessary loans or withdrawals, absolutely one of the biggest mistakes that people make with their 401k, or just cashing one out after changing a job. Failing to update beneficiaries or forgetting old plans at old employers. Sometimes that old 401k sits there and then your life changes and nothing's been updated at the old 401k because it's sort of been forgotten about. Waiting until retirement to really structure and think about how this tool, this important tool, your 401k and the balance that you've been able to save is actually going to be utilized for retirement purposes and coordinated with things like Social Security. So understanding your 401k, it's an employer-sponsored plan. It's through an employer. Direct payroll contributions go into the plan. It's a powerful tool for accumulation, but not necessarily a complete retirement plan. You do need to understand how it works in order to create better planning opportunities, and retirement does require answers about withdrawals and income and taxation that a lot of times 401ks are not specifically designed to help you answer. Using your 401k, though, is something that we should absolutely do if we've got access to it. Again, they're employer-sponsored retirement savings plans funded directly through payroll deductions, automatic payroll deductions. They may include tax-deferred deductions. They may include Roth contributions, and we'll talk a lot about that on the program today. But they are automatic. They are systematic. They are automated. That's one of the best parts about 401ks is that you sign up, you make your elections, and then it happens. You know, a lot of people, if they bring the money home, it's tough for them to get it into investments. So 401ks and automatic payroll contributions takes care of that. A lot of people, even if they're disciplined enough to bring the money home and not spend it and get some saved, they don't really know what to invest in. The 401k takes care of those investment choices and actually gets the dollars invested. So a lot of people might even make a contribution to a Roth and then the money sits there not in any funds. And all of these are missed opportunities that the 401k itself as a vehicle helps us to address. And it's got some pretty attractive contribution limits. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But my warning here is that automation is a beautiful thing. In fact, automation turns good intentions into actual real results, but we can't rely too much on automation. And I'm going to talk about why the automated, systematic, automatic nature of the 401k might actually be a detriment, costing years in retirement. The question comes though, am I using my 401k properly? Am I contributing enough? Well, a better question might be, am I maximizing every opportunity that I have available? Because there is sort of a hierarchy of good, better, best ways and places to save your money. The absolute best place is if there is a match, regardless of whether your match is on the traditional or the Roth side, if there is a match, that's the best place to put your money. There's no other place in the financial world where you can guarantee yourself that kind of immediate return that a match on your contributions earns for you immediately. And I'm not in love with the term free money, because ultimately you are working for that money. It's just that you don't get it unless you put some skin in the game and make those contributions. So you are working for the money, you just don't get it unless you put in the requirement to capture the match, which you should absolutely do to 100% of the matching ability that your company is offering you. Make sure you're capturing that. Don't miss out on that. Then, for some people, it might make sense to pivot outside of the 401k and look at other alternatives like Roth IRAs, for example. And then if that is not a sufficient amount of retirement savings, we can go back to the 401k. Now, you don't have to do it in that order, one, then the next, then the next. You can do all of these at once. But it's not necessarily that I've got to max out my 401k to make the progress. It's, am I maxing out the right tools to get me where I want to go? First priority, again, capture all of that match. Increase those contributions where you can, maybe throughout the years or as you get raises. Automate that process if possible. And remember, especially for my young folks who might be watching or listening, and if that's maybe someone you care about, please share this with them so that they get this message. The earlier you start making contributions, the better your results are going to be. Hey, we'd all love a get-rich-quick scheme to come to fruition and reality. Making contributions is a get-rich scheme. It just takes 30 or 40 years to work. But if we start earlier, somebody who makes contributions between 20 to 30 and then stops ends up with more money at the end than someone who starts at 30 and contributes all the way through 60 if they have the same growth rate on those contributions. And somebody who starts at 20 isn't going to stop at 30. By that point in time, it's part of their behavior and their psychology to be an investor. For my young folks, you got to see the power of compounding interest once it starts working in your favor inside of your 401k, and the power of dollar cost averaging. The goal should be 15% going toward your 401k or toward retirement somewhere. And 15%, wow, that sounds like a lot. I've always heard pay myself first. What about 10%? Well, let's look at the math on 10%. If you had a 30-year career and you saved 10% of the income that you were used to earning every year, and let's just imagine over that entire 30 years you earned the same thing. Well, by the end of your 30-year career, that 10% per year is a cumulative 3 years worth of the income that you have been used to living off of at the end of your career. And you probably didn't make as much at the beginning of your career, but let's just pretend it's the same income over 30 years. That's 3 years worth of income that you've actually saved for yourself. And of course, we hope to invest that money and double it and double it and double it again over a 30-year time frame. But retirement is long. And it's longer than it used to be, and it's more active than it used to be, and it's more expensive than it used to be. And so we need as much funding as possible. 15% puts you about on a right and reasonable track to have expectations for a fully confident financial retirement. So strive for that 15%. Don't stop at just 10. And by the way, that should be 15% of your money, whatever the company is matching. It could be a little bit of a debate and a gray area, but I would like to see whatever the company is matching be icing on the cake, so to speak, be extra over and above. So how much can you get into 401ks? Well, the contribution limits are indexed for inflation or adjusted every so often. And this year, 2026, if you are 49 years old or below, the limit is $24,500. If you are 50 or above, you get an $8,000 catch-up, so that brings it up to $32,500. And then one of the opportunities that people are missing, not only the catch-up contribution at 50 and above, but another one, big missed opportunity, is that there is now a special provision for an additional enhanced catch-up. And you've got 4 years here between 60 and 63. So 60, 61, 62, 63, it does stop at 63. Why might that be? Well, I'll explain that in a moment. But in those 4 years, you actually get an additional $11,250 of enhanced catch-up. So that brings your total up to $35,750 that you can put of your own money, not including the company match, of your own money into a 401k. Now, why might it stop at 63? Well, that is the time when Medicare is going to start looking back at your income. And if you make a certain amount, they charge you more. And if you're kind of right on that threshold and sticking extra money into a 401k, it might look like you're actually making less taxable income. So the government said, well, we shouldn't let people who are making over that limit put it in a 401k and hide all of that income if it would put them below these means-tested IRMA thresholds. They're kind of smart people back there behind the register of the government. But up until 63, we've got that extra catch-up, and we should certainly take advantage of that. Again, with the intelligence of government accountants, so to speak, beginning in 2026, this is a new rule. If you are a high-income earner, your catch-up contributions have to be on the Roth side, meaning they're taxable, right? So the way the government looks at this, if somebody is a high income earner, about $145,000 to $150,000 or more of income, and they're able not only to max out their 401k, but also do the catch-up, then they're living below their income. Their income should be at a higher tax bracket, but they're putting money into this 401k, bringing that taxable income down. And if those are their true living expenses, when they pull it out in retirement, they probably will be in a lower tax bracket then as well. So let's force them to put those catch-up contributions on the Roth side so that it's taxable today. However, all that said, don't miss the opportunity. If you've got the ability to do your regular and catch-up or even enhanced contributions to your 401k, you should absolutely take advantage of that opportunity. And I do have a lot of information here, and I want to respect y'all's time. So I'm going to move through it real quick. What about Roth options in the 401k? Huge missed opportunity. A lot of people are still doing all their contributions on the traditional side because we have been told taxes might go down in the future. Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not convinced. Taxes could be lower today. You know, the government does like to change things, and they do love to spend money. Roth contributions are after-tax dollars that go in. Your choice should depend on your specific situation, but many investors in retirement do benefit from having both sides, some tax-deferred money and some Roth money tax-free. And the Roth is more and more common inside of the 401k. In fact, with that 2026 new law requirement that catch-up contributions have to go into the Roth side, I've yet to see a plan in 2026 that did not offer a Roth opportunity inside of a 401k. So why the Roth? Well, there's a lot of reasons, right? And we all hear about the after-tax contributions creates tax-free growth and tax-free income, so you've got more flexibility and control. But there's actually way more reasons than that. It helps to potentially control taxation on your Social Security. It might help control the cost of your Medicare premiums through IRMA. It could reduce RMDs and control your tax brackets. It can help control healthcare costs, both during your Medicare years and the potential for other extenuating medical expenses and circumstances where you would have to pull more taxable income out of a traditional 401k. You could pull tax-free income out of the Roth. So reducing taxable withdrawals if long-term care is needed. Also could control the widow's penalty. When one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse's tax brackets are adjusted. Not in a favorable way. A Roth could help control that. tax-free legacy for your beneficiaries, they are still subject to the 10-year withdrawal and liquidation rule. All IRAs and retirement accounts would be subject to that, with very few caveats, but one of them is not Roth. Just because you prepaid your tax, the government wants that money back in taxable circulation. So even Roths, 401ks, and IRAs have to be liquidated by next generation beneficiaries within 10 years. But it does really address one critical risk, which is the possibility of legislative risk, which is the government changing the rules on us and changing the tax brackets and rates down the road. If we prepay the taxes today, we have controlled that and taken that risk and that variable off of the table. What are the drawbacks to the Roth side of the 401k? Well, you don't get the upfront deduction, right? It means that you'll bring home a little less money. If you're trying to get the same amount into the 401k, traditional, you don't have to pay tax on that money. On the Roth side, you do. And there are some limits and limitations that you should be aware of, but the story, the analogy is the seed versus the harvest. If you were a farmer and the tax man came to you and said, I can either tax you on the bag of seeds or the handful of seeds that you have in your hand today, and then I'll leave you alone when you go to harvest. Or the other choice, you can keep all the seeds that you have, plant them, grow them, and when it's harvest time, I'm going to come back and tax you on the harvest. Which deal would you take? And oh, by the way, every time you plant and harvest, the harvest is going to be taxed because the growth is also taxed every time you take a distribution. So which deal would you take? More and more, I think people are seeing the wisdom of the Roth side of things. It's also seeing retirement from both sides, pre-retirement and post-retirement, as I do on a daily basis. It seems like it's an easier thing to pay a bill out of your paychecks while you're earning them than it is for retirees to try to fathom how to budget paying the IRS out of their finite lump sum. You've only got so much money the day after retirement, and you don't know how long you need to make it last. And if you haven't paid the IRS, that's probably one of your largest known expenses in retirement. So which side would you rather pay that on? 401k misconceptions, Roth 401k misconceptions. My employer doesn't offer Roth. Usually that is a misconception. Again, in 2026, I have not seen a plan that does not offer the Roth. My employer won't match if I put my money on the Roth side. Your employer does not care which side you choose to put your money on. They will match if there is a match available. Now, they're nice enough to match. They might not be nice enough to pay your taxes for you. In fact, they probably won't. That is a very rare occurrence that the company matches with Roth dollars. They're getting a tax deduction for their matching contribution. So nice enough to match, not nice enough to pay your taxes for you on your behalf. I make too much. That is a problem with Roth IRAs. That is not necessarily the same problem with Roth 401ks. As long as you're eligible to make 401k contributions, you would be eligible to make Roth 401k contributions. And what about my taxes will be lower in retirement? Again, that's the premise that we have all saved in these 401ks and deferred and delayed paying taxes under for decades and decades. Is that actually a savings though? Let's take a look at that in just a moment. There are also backdoor strategies inside of a 401k. And if you are looking at how to get money into a Roth in your IRA but eliminated, don't forget the 401k Roth opportunity that's there. But there's also something called a mega backdoor Roth. And this is a very specific strategy, generally for higher income earners. It's a two-step strategy. It does depend on your company's specific plan documents, but there is room between your maximum deductible contribution and the actual maximum amount that's allowed to get into 401k plans. So after you make your 401k deductible or Roth contributions, your company plan might allow for additional non-deductible contributions. And if they do, and they also allow for an in-plan conversion or an in-service distribution, you can take that money, that extra money, and then immediately convert it over into Roth. That is known as the mega backdoor Roth conversion, and the limits for 2026 are up to $72,000, and then you still have the catch-up contribution there. So that could be a way to really supercharge your Roth savings. But again, it is very specific, plan specific, situational specific. You've got to meet the criteria and have a plan that allows for all of this. So it's not going to apply for everybody. However, let's address the question of, does traditional really save money if we're going to be in a lower tax bracket in retirement? And I've got this little chart here that we will go through. If we are in a 25% tax bracket during our working years, and our goal is to get $10,000 a year put into retirement somewhere, well, in a pre-retirement traditional 401k, to get that $10,000 in, we don't have to pay any taxes, and $10,000 of our money could be contributed. If we did that for 10 years, we would have contributed $100,000, and let's say we got pretty good returns over that 10-year period. That $100,000 would have doubled to $200,000. Now, what if we did that on the Roth side? Well, we've got the same goal. Our goal is to put $10,000 into the account, but on the Roth side, we have to pay the tax at a 25% tax rate. So we actually have to earn $13,333. $3,333 would be paid in tax per year that we are making this contribution. Again, our goal is to put in $10,000, but over 10 years, we would have paid $33,333 in tax to get that same $100,000 into the Roth account. We get the same investment returns. That doesn't change. So we have the same $200,000 in our account. Now we retire. And what they told us is true. Let's just take it at face value. I have my doubts, but let's take it at face value that we do drop tax brackets in retirement. And let's say we drop to a 20% tax bracket rate. Well, if we need $40,000 a year to live on, we don't just pull $40,000 out of the side that we have not paid tax on yet because we haven't paid tax. We have to pull out $50,000, meaning we pay $10,000 in tax at a 20% tax rate, and we then have $40,000 to spend. So we paid $10,000 in tax to pull out $50,000. Well, out of $200,000, we can only do that 4 times. So we just paid $40,000 in taxes in retirement for the $33,000 that we could have paid during our working career, even though we're in a lower tax rate. And that's because of the growth on the account, right? That's the growth that happened during that period of time accounts for that higher tax amount. So again, is it easier to pay a bill during your working career or out of your retirement nest egg? And oh, by the way, here's where it's costing years of retirement. If we need $40,000 out of the Roth side that we've already paid tax on, all we pull out is $40,000. And if we did that 4 times, well, that's only $160,000 that's come out of our $200,000 account. We have a full extra year of income on the Roth side that we did not have because we were paying taxes out of our nest egg on the traditional side. So if you'd like to see this chart, just text me your name. You can get all of the slides to today's presentation. Text your name to 919-300-5886 and you can go through all of these numbers again. But just the savings on the account withdrawals itself does not even tell the complete story because your Social Security is actually taxed depending on your other taxable income. So if you were pulling that same $40,000, $50,000 from the traditional side out of your IRA, that's going to put you over some Social Security taxation thresholds. And if you are an individual, that means you're going to pay 85%, you are going to pay taxes on 85% of your Social Security. It becomes taxable when it didn't have to be. Because if you were pulling that money out of the Roth, that's no taxable income your Social Security could theoretically still stay tax-free. So on a $2,000 monthly Social Security anticipated benefit, if you're pulling that out of the traditional side, well, $1,700 of it is taxable. That means your annual tax on your Social Security is $4,080. And that also means that if you're married, 50% of your Social Security is taxable, and you paid $3,600 of tax on your Social Security, where you did not have to do that at all on the Roth side. So again, a missed opportunity there in understanding the full implications of how these accounts work once we get to the destination that they are intended for. Matching opportunities. Look, with the employer matches, it's a return you can't replicate. Many plans do offer contributions, whether you put your money on the traditional side or the Roth side. And generally, the employer's match goes in on the pre-tax side. But you do need to understand how your specific plan handles matches. Because if you are a high income earner and maxing out your 401k early in the year, some people don't spread it out the entire year. Some people get all of that money kind of front loaded. Beware of the specifics of your plan because you could be missing some of the match. And in this example here on the screen, we've got an individual who earned $200,000 a year, and they were saving 15% in their 401k, and they were getting a 5% match on each contribution of that. So monthly, that's $16,666 that is being contributed to their 401k, that they are earning, and $2,500 a month that's going into their 401k. But by the end of September, they have maxed out their contributions, and their company matched per contribution. So there were several months there where the contribution was missed. So this is a case where we might need to look at other options, because if we drop those contributions down to just 11.25%, now we get the same contributions in to max out the 401k over the course of the year. We have no months that we miss, and we have no match that we miss. So we actually end up getting more money into the account by contributing less. Now, some companies offer a true up at the end of the year, meaning if you ran into this situation of missed contribution match because you maxed out early, then they give you the rest of the match at the end of the year. But not all companies and not all plans do. That's why you need to be very aware of your specific plan documents, because this could be a big missed opportunity. Your investment options, obviously, in 401ks are very important. Your company gets to choose those options. You have to select from their menu of options. So there might not be a great deal of diversification. There might be some that are too aggressive or too conservative for you. Your choices do matter, especially as you get closer to retirement. And one of the big choices that is in the 401ks very commonly these days are these target date funds or these life cycle funds. And I talked earlier about how the automatic, systematic, automated nature of the 401ks was a beautiful thing. But this is kind of cruise control and falling asleep at the wheel. And target date funds are intended to be something that is relatively suitable for every participant in the plan. But they might not be the absolute best option for anyone in the plan. They are something that covers the basis, so to speak. And again, they have an automatic nature to them, which is great, that in theory they decrease risk as you get closer to retirement. They move from aggressive to more conservative. But my analogy here is, if I drive on the highway and then go to a city street and then enter into a school zone, the speed limit changes. It goes from 60 or 65 to 45 to 35 in the school zone. And I would be wise to follow the posted speed limit on a dry, sunny day where driving conditions are ideal. But in one of our North Carolina deluge rainstorms where everybody's got their emergency flashers on and you can still hardly see the car in front of you, it probably is not prudent to continue going the posted speed limit. And that's exactly what a target date fund does. It drives at the posted speed limit. It is on a predetermined algorithm that does not adjust for conditions. And if we look back in history, we can see how this was detrimental to retirees. In fact, if we look back at the Great Recession, one of the largest funds by volume of dollars invested was a 2010 target date fund. And if you remember, the Great Recession was 2007, 2008, and extending into 2009. So we're talking about a fund that is intended to target a retirement in just 1 to 3 years here. And it moved maybe more conservatively to fixed income, but that does not mean safe. It does not mean the same thing as safe. And so if you look here at the 2010 target date fund, you can see that that fund actually lost almost 30%. Could you imagine losing a quarter, more than a quarter of your life savings in the home stretch, the final couple years of your working career? When you thought you were in a fund that was supposed to adjust for risk automatically, it does systematically, over time, adjust your equity exposure, but it does not adjust for real world conditions. Another thing you need to be aware of inside of your investment allocation is portfolio drift. As your balance has grown, as the market has done well, you have likely become more and more risky inside of your 401k. The equity side of the 401k of your allocation is the part that has grown the most. And that happens over time when we should be theoretically getting more conservative. Most people want to be a little bit safer as they get closer to retirement. So your risk exposure is growing while your risk tolerance is likely decreasing. And that's portfolio drift. And that's why you need to double check and review and rebalance your investment allocation on a regular basis. So what happens with a 401k when you actually retire? Well, basically everything changes because the 401k is an accumulation vehicle, not a distribution vehicle. Your needs have changed from accumulation to income and distribution. That's what retirement's all about. And they are also less flexible. You don't have as much control. Retirement changes what the account needs to do. And again, going back here, the direction of your money matters more than the direction of the market. To illustrate this, I use this example, which you may have seen before if you've been on one of these webinars, but it's the real world returns of the S&P 500 over a 20-year period from 2000 through 2019. The real returns of the S&P. And as we are working and contributing, the market works in our favor and we're dollar cost averaging. And so we're putting money into our investments. Hypothetically, this is maybe your 401k. Now, the amount that I'm illustrating here is $25,000 a year, so that's a little bit over the limits. But if you were to put that $25,000 into an investment vehicle over this 20-year period, you end that period with $1.162 million using just the flat returns of the S&P. However, if the account balance was already there, if you had $500,000, you would think with a $500,000 head start that you end up well ahead of somebody who started with zero, but actually, in fact, you do not. The person who was making contributions ends up ahead of the person who started with 500,000, even though the contribution started with zero. And this is why oftentimes people say, well, my 401k is doing so fantastic. Yes, absolutely it is. It's probably beating your other accounts because it's not only getting the returns of the market, but it's also taking advantage of dollar cost averaging. Your contributions are adding into that return, and the timing of your contributions can help it even further. But what happens when you turn the corner and the money reverses in retirement and you start taking distributions? Well, that's what leads to people, if they're using the same model and the same tool, the 401k, that's what leads to people running out of money sooner than expected if the market has turbulent times. And it doesn't need to be a catastrophically turbulent time. This is what we call sequence of returns risk. And I did pick a particularly rough time in the stock market, but I'm not convinced that the next 20 years doesn't hold another couple rough times in the stock market. So what we want to avoid is using the same approach when everything else is different, right? When you repeat the same behavior expecting a different result, That's been called the definition of insanity. But what if we do something completely different and expect the same result? It's just as opposite. And that's what people are doing with their investments in the market. Taxes also change, and taxes can change. Not only do taxes change for you, even if the tax system was to stay the same, meaning during your working career, taxes are sort of taken care of. You're earning a paycheck and taxes are already taken out. And then in retirement, you've got multiple sources that are all taxed differently, and it's up to you to figure that out. But the tax system itself can also change, and it has changed. And where does it change to from here? I don't know, but I worry that taxes could go up into the future. And understanding that and planning for that is really about taking control. So common opportunities that are missed include leaving an employer match, retiring, if you've got a disability or an inheritance. Most plans allow for an in-service distribution at 59.5. These are, again, your opportunities to take control. A rollover expands your options and the ability to actually execute on some strategic retirement planning, not just access to the market for growth and accumulation. But you do always need to review your specific plan documents. These are all missed opportunities, very commonly missed. People leave old plans behind, they don't take control of them. A lot of people don't know about the 59.5 in-service distribution. Why would you want to take advantage of any of those opportunities? Well, an IRA can offer you broader investment choices, more sophisticated withdrawal strategies, controlling your taxation, doing Roth conversions. Consolidation may make things easier to track as far as number of accounts and paperwork, the withdrawals that you take, the RMDs that are mandated, the beneficiary coordination. And for many retirees, an IRA or a Roth IRA become a consolidated, really primary sources for retirement income. And those opportunities can be missed. When should you roll over that 401k? At retirement, if you're leaving a job or have already left a job, if you receive an inheritance, or age 59.5 with that in-service distribution. Those are a lot of missed opportunities. Now, when should you not do a rollover? Because it's not universal. There are times where you should not do a rollover. An IRA is not always the best answer. If you are still working and contributing to a 401k with a large balance and you are RMD age, you probably should not roll over that 401k just yet, because that's going to cause RMDs that were not necessarily required. You may want to leave the 401k in place if you're going to retire before 59.5. You may need to access those funds. That is possible without the 10% penalty with the rule of 55. The right answer really depends on circumstances. Another one that I see missed is if you've got a large amount of appreciated company stock in a plan. There's something called NUA, net unrealized appreciation. So what are the biggest 401k missed opportunities? Not capturing the match, taking unnecessary loans or withdrawals, not updating beneficiaries or forgetting that the account even exists, waiting till retirement to plan with the 401k. Those are all missed opportunities, but there are many, 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 many more missed opportunities. I won't go through all of them. They're right there on your screen. How does a 401k fit into the plan? 401k is a tool. A plan is a blueprint. So if somebody showed up to build your dream home and they said, oh, hire me, I'm the guy, I've got a hammer. Is that the person you're going to hire, or the person who shows up with a blueprint and says, here's where a hammer is needed, here's where plumbing is going to go into the house, here's where the electrical is going to fit in, here's how we're going to frame it, and here's all of the beautiful accents and accoutrements that you want in your dream home, right? The tool does not constitute a plan. It may be important in the process, but it is not a plan. So you really need planning across all of those pillars. A 401k is a great tool and option for generating a wealth building component to your financial picture. As retirement nears, however, it might not be the best tool. And a lot of times these missed opportunities that I've gone over today can cost years of retirement confidence. That's why you need all of the pillars of the plan, not just access to the market. So if you've been working, had the 401k, or maybe have 401ks, some still maybe back and lying around at previous employers, give us a call, come talk to us. If you'd like to see this slide deck again, text me your name to 919-300-5886. But at Richon Planning, we put together the optimized retirement plan, trying to bring together all of the pieces and looking at how the direction of money is going to change down the road, especially with those 401ks. You can also scan the QR code on your screen right now. Hope that you found some of this informative today. And if there's one piece of this that you had not heard about or were not aware of that, might be the indication that there could be more and other opportunities that you're missing. So we do always offer a complimentary initial consultation, review, strategy session. We want you to own your someday. So we'll talk about what you envision that to be, talk about the tools that are going to get there, and put together that optimized retirement plan for you. No cost, no obligation. Feel free to be in touch if you'd like to take advantage of that. 919-300-5886, 919-300-5886. Once again, hope you found today's presentation helpful and informative, and I do look forward to speaking with you, helping any way I can in the future. So long, everybody. Take care.